Welcome back to another session of Madison Library District's Adult Makers. This month we are going to be making a tiny book which will use all kinds of different skills. Let's take a look at what's in your kit. Ready? As the kit says, you should have 25 pieces of little regular paper. You should have 2 pieces of 2x3 pretty paper, another smaller piece of double-sided pretty paper, a couple of heavier papers that are just over 1.5 by 2, and just over 2 by 1/4 inch heavier paper. You should also have a popsicle stick, a little thing of glue, some heavy string, heavy thread, light string, like that, and a big old honkin' needle. Big old honkin' needle. There are a couple of other things you're going to need as well. Hopefully you have at home a pair of scissors and a pencil. With that, we should be good to go. Okay, here we go, folks. First thing you want to do is get most of this out of your way and concentrate first off on these regular little pieces of paper that you have. They're 2x3. There's 25 of them, and you want to make 5 bundles of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. 1, 2, I think. 3, 4, 5, if I'm counting correctly. It's got an extra one in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are so ready to go. No, there's more than that in there. 1, 2, 3. We got some extras. Okay. So you've got 5 bundles of 5 now. We're going to take those, fold them in half, give them a really good crease. You will probably notice that some of these pages aren't exactly the same. When you're cutting mass quantities of paper, that happens. If you want to kind of hand trim things up, you can do that now, you can do a little bit later, or you can just leave it and give it more of a rustic look. It's fine, depending on how nitpicky you are. Okay, we have 5 groups of 5. And again, how nitpicky do you want to be? If you know me very well, you know I kind of fudge things a lot, and this is going to be a good case in point here. We could carefully measure distances, but you know, if I hold these all together and get out my pencil and just make some marks, I'm okay with that. So I'm going to make a mark here. I'm going to make a mark about the same distance the other side. Ooh, look at those. That one's not showing up. I want to make sure we see everything. And then divide that section into about thirds. So I'm going to make another set of marks here and another set of marks here. And is it exactly even? Probably not, but it's darn close. All right, I'm going to start working with one of these at a time, and you can put these someplace if you're afraid of them running away from each other. Clamp them together, put them under a book, hold them between your teeth, whatever. Okay, then you're going to get your needle out and thread that needle. I can't pick it up. There we go. tie a knot in the end. And we're ready to start sewing. And okay. We are going to go from the back and go in that first dot at the top. Shove those a little further away. And go in. Make sure you don't pull it all the way through. Then we're going to go up through the next dot, and yeah, we have to kind of eyeball that a little bit. I'm not scared. I don't think you are either. Down. And up. So now we have half sewn on both sides. We're going to keep going down and up, and we'll end up having it sewn on both sides. Now when we come back to the knot, we don't want to go back down again because we need to do our working part on the outside of the pages. So I'm going to try to go between the threads in that knot. Oops. Sure. To hold it in place. And I'll just kind of loop through there to give it a little extra. Okay, there's my first register. Now we'll take the next bunch of papers. We're going to hold it next to our first bunch there. And we're going to do the same thing, which may feel a little awkward for a moment because you got this other thing dangling around next to it. Don't worry about that. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're trying to sew these all together. So again, we come up. We go down. And we come up. And we get knots in the thread. If you don't do that a little bit, I will be amazed at you. Okay, let's tighten this up a little bit now that we've got it halfway done. Okay. And we'll take the other half of that register. Oh, I got a little bit of a, there we go. Let's get rid of that loopy part. Okay. Okay, and we sew it back to our starting place. So at this point, the two registers are just connected at this one point, which doesn't make it very strong. So we're going to go back into that first one that we sewed together and do it halfway. And by halfway, I mean we're going to go up and down to the other end, but we're not going to retreat back. Okay, and we'll do a little loopy loop here to secure it to our second register. And now we have the two sewn together. So we're going to keep going that way. Add another one on, except we'll be starting from this side and working the other way this time around. Oops. Oops, did you see what I just did? I just saw what I just did and I was amazed at myself. Not what we wanted to do, unless we're making an interesting puzzle. Let's try going down from the outside. I just showed you that so you would know what not to do, because, you know, never would have made that mistake otherwise. Okay, so down and up. Down and up, and let's make sure it's kind of lined up with the others, sort of. Got a little loop in it there. Oh no, I think I got a serious knot. It's a doozy. Yeah, it's a doozy. All right. And we're back to our starting point. And again, we're going to go down and up in the register just behind that, just to kind of make sure they're all hooked together and really secure. And tie it off on that new section. And let's add another one. And you may be going, oh, all those other papers are getting in the way. They can. Sometimes it's a challenge, but I know you have the skills to cope. And now we'll go back through the last one. Give it a couple stitches there. And secure it to our new section. One more to go. I almost did it again. That's interesting. What did I do? And again, we're going to go into the one just behind it. And hopefully not impale your finger like I just did. Fortunately, no blood was drawn because I don't think we have Band-Aids here. Or at least not handy. Okay, so let's bring that last one back. Oops. And we'll just wrap this around a little bit. Sew them all together. Give one last knot. And snip it off. Okay, so there's the interior of our book. Now we have to work on the outside. So set this aside for a bit. If you want to clamp it to keep it from springing open, give it more of an idea of where you'd like it to be ultimately, you can do that, but they're not going to get separated or go anywhere. Okay, these two little pieces are really great. They're the last thing we're going to do. So set those aside. Then take your big piece of paper. You're going to have to decide which side you want to be your cover. And I think I would like this side to be my cover. So we're going to take the two cover pieces, and our little nice spine and just kind of eyeball that. What ultimately is going to happen, we're going to have these really close together like this, little break between the spine and the two covers, and a little bit of room to fold things over. But we do need one more piece of paper that I did not cut for you. I figured you'd want to do at least a little bit of cutting on your own. So we'll just say, okay, we need about that much. Yeah, we need about that much. And we'll just cut that off. And it should be just a little bit wider than your book, about 3 times maybe. Well, that's just perfect. Okay, now we want to make it the same length as your book. Cut that off. That little other piece is just garbage. Okay, this should be able to wrap around very nicely. Yeah, that will work. Okay, now we're going to get into glue. I did not give you paintbrushes because it's just hard to get that many good paintbrushes in a kit. For the one that I made before, I actually just used my finger as a paintbrush, and it worked quite well. It's just that I had to go and wash my fingers so many times while I was working with the paper between, putting some on, wash off, fold the paper, that I decided, hey, let's give this a try and use a popsicle stick as a paintbrush, which I think will work just fine. Okay, first thing you want to do is get a little bit of that glue there. Rub it all over the back of the book that you have created and all those pretty seams. Make sure it's going to the corners, but not necessarily going along the side. We do not want that paper to stick to the sides of the book at all because it's going to need to stick to the sides of the cover. So let's stick that on, press it down. Again, don't want it necessarily to go over to the sides. I could probably straighten it up a little bit if I were neat and trying to do this right. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so we'll get that pressed down and we're going to set it aside and let it dry for a little bit. Then we're going to come back over with our cover pieces. And we could do some serious cutting at this point, but I think it's a lot easier if we just glue it first. So if nobody has any objections to that, let's put some glue on that little spine piece. We'll stick it down there. And same thing with the covers. If you were doing this on a full-size book, this paper that we're using really would not be adequate. You'd want to use something heavier, some mat board, maybe some hard, rigid cardboard. But for something this tiny, that's just kind of overkill. What I'm using is some nice heavy watercolor paper, and I've just cut up a piece of that to use for the covers. You want to leave just a little bit of room between the cover and the spine, because that's where your bend is going to be in your book. and we want it to be able to have that flexibility. Okay, press down really good. Let's do the other cover. You know, maybe like a cereal box might be the right weight for these two if you wanted to do some more and experiment with what you had around the house. More. All right. And give it just a little bit of room for the bendy part. Press it down well. Okay. All right, we've got more paper than we really need here for the cover. So I'm going to trim a bit. Yeah, maybe about like that. And then if we were just to start folding at this point, you would end up with a lot of extra paper kind of garbling up and bunching up at the corners. So we're going to trim this just a little bit. You don't want to go all the way into the corner, or else you'd end up having the corners show. But you can cut off a bit from those corners, and that will help the folding process. Okay, we're ready for the next step. Here comes my expert high-tech paintbrush again. We're just going to rub that on there. And then fold it over. And not surprisingly, I'm getting glue all over the place. It's okay. Worse things have happened. Okay, let's do the other side. Although I'm noting maybe I don't need to put the glue on quite that thick. Okay. Fold it over. Press it down. Okay. Now we do the sides. And that is really thick. Wow. Thick enough that I will probably regret that. Okay. Going to fold those in. I'm just going to take one of my little scraps here and get rid of some of this excess. Ah, somebody's offering me a paper towel. Thank you, Lark. Because really, I do have more than I need. It won't necessarily hurt anything as far as the book goes, except I'll probably end up sticking to it a lot more than I would like to. So let's do that. Okay, so here we've got our cover. Pretty much ready to go. Except before we put anything in it, we want to do some of this bending stuff first. It will probably help a bit if you allow it to dry completely, but I'm just going to jump in because I don't want to keep you waiting. But you'll see there's two places to bend. We want to bend along the spine, and we want to bend along the edge of the cover as well. So, right, we're ready to start putting things together. All right. Okay, let's go back to your book innards, which are feeling pretty good, pretty secure. We're going to put some glue on the outside now of that. And I think the popsicle stick is actually working pretty well for this. Good. Okay. Once you have a good cover on it, we're going to take it over here and we are going to stick this in the center along the spine, get it centered well, and then press those sides down. So your innards and your outards are now affixed. Ta-da! But it doesn't look really pretty. So what we're going to do is take those two little pieces of paper that I said at the very beginning, they're the last thing we're going to do, set them aside, and we're going to use those as end papers. And I would like to use the more kind of squiggly lines rather than the flowers for my end pages. So we're going to fold them so that they're the inside of the fold there. And maybe I should do it this way. I should probably do it this way. We're going to put glue on the outside, the part that we do not want showing. And once you've got it all good and gooey, we're going to go back to our book. We're going to put that right in the center of the crease. And press it in. Might want to just go like that. What we'll end up with is decorative pages inside. Do that on the other side as well. And we do the same thing on the other side. half. Get the glue off your fingers. Make sure it's nicely jammed into that crease. And there you go. At this point, if you want to fuss a little bit, this is a good time to fuss. If any of those pages are, you know, just sticking out too much for you, you want to trim or fiddle, or feel free. But for the most part, your book is done, and whatever you want to do with it, whoops, from this point out is up to you. Here you go. You have made a tiny book. Feel free to play around some more. Thanks for coming to Adult Makers, and we'll see you next time.